Tonight, Southern governors double down on their resolutions on restructuring and other matters. Governors Okowa and Wike insist they are echoing the voices of their people. 11 of the 12 Muslim worshippers abducted from a mosque in Jibra town in Katsina State regained their freedom. Impact of COVID-19 pandemic and debt relief top agenda as President Buhari joins other global leaders for the African Finance Summit holding in Paris next week. And Israel-Palestine conflict shows no sign of abating as Israeli airstrikes and rockets fired from Gaza continue to wreak havoc on both sides.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves sustained decline for the fourth consecutive week as turnover dips by 72% on low inflow amid fluctuating oil.
The governors of the 17 southern states at their meeting in Asaba, the Delta State capital, on May the 11th may have ruffled some feathers, prompting criticism from some Nigerians. But the governors of Delta and River State are doubling down on the matter. Taking a swipe at the critics on the issues raised, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is insisting that the decisions are justified and is urging leaders from other parts of the country to embrace them. According to the governor, most of the conversations are long overdue and urgent steps must be taken to secure the unity of the nation.
Some days ago, 17 governors in the southern part of the country met in Asaba, with restructuring, insecurity, and other issues forming the focal point of their discussion. The dust raised at that meeting continues to spread, with the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawal, recently taking a swipe at the conveners of the gathering. He believes, and very strongly too, that while restructuring and other matters raised by the governors are not in themselves bad, elected leaders should not be at the forefront of those championing them.
For me, I think the time has come for us to take up the challenge, the gauntlet, to ensure that the local government system functions. This is in keeping with looking for ways, for means, for solutions to the security challenges that we face. The calls for cessation, the calls for restructuring, many are genuine calls, even though I never believe that someone who is calling for cessation means well or is a misguided person. Those of us who are elected must not be at the forefront of calling for this kind of thing, because even if you are a governor, you are supposed to be working hard in your state to ensure that this restructuring you are calling at the federal level, you have done it in your state as well.
But the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, disagrees with the Senate President. According to him, what the southern governors did in Asaba was to look at those issues that are hampering Nigeria's unity and discuss them in such a way that will help the nation build a more united federation.
The things that we said are not new. It's just the voice of our people that we have continued to echo. But unfortunately, I read in the papers that somebody said we ought not to talk about certain things, being elected people. If the voice of your people has been heard loudly and they have continued to talk, and you're an elected person and you shy away from giving further voice to their voices, then you ought not to be in the position that you occupy. We reaffirm that as a people, as elected governors, we believe in the unity of our country. But we also went forth to advance the need for certain things to be done in order to give strength to that unity. We talked about restructuring, which has been on the table for so long. Both the voices of the PDP and the APC itself have endorsed restructuring. Our restructuring is all-inclusive, all-encompassing. We may have different views, different approaches to the restructuring. But when we sit on a table in dialogue, we'll be able to agree best what is good for Nigeria and what is good for the component parts of Nigeria.
Just as the Senate President believes that the agitation for restructuring in itself is not a bad idea, Governor Kowa and its counterparts from the southern states equally believe that delaying its implementation will not do the country any good.
Governor Kowa's counterpart in Rivers State is also spitting fire, saying those opposing the decision of the southern governors to ban open grazing in the region do not mean well for the nation. Governor Nyesom Wike says his administration is already taking steps to implement the governor's resolution, noting that the southern part of the country can no longer be intimidated and treated as a second-class region. He was speaking during a civic reception organized in his honor by the Ogoni ethnic group in Bori, the headquarters of Kano local government area.
Look, I have been in government, I'm in opposition, nobody can cow me. Malcolm said, no, the government cannot cow me. I will say what I will say, and I will do what is right for my people. Nobody will do me anything. I will die the day God said it's my day. Nobody can take my life when it's not time for me to die. So let nobody be afraid. Let me also use the opportunity to say, all those who are saying why should southern governors say they ban grace, I have taken further step to fulfill what the southern governors have said in Asaba. If anybody wants to die, go and die and hang yourself in the electric pole. We have taken a position and we are not going back. Enough is enough. We are not second-class citizens of this country. We also own this country, and we must partake in what is happening in this country. You have said you are coming to clean Ogoni land. Move your office from Port Harcourt and come to Bori. You cannot talk about cleaning of a place and you keep your office in another area. Bring your office from Port Harcourt, come and stay in Bori, so that you can hear and see the feelings of the people. It is very, very important.
Meanwhile, the primate of all Nigeria, Anglican Communion, has lent his voice to the calls for the unity of Nigeria, which he says is key to the nation's survival. To ensure this, the Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba is calling for urgent sovereign national dialogue to chart the way forward and prevent the country from becoming a failed state. He was speaking during the second session of the 11th Synod of the Diocese of Abuja.
The continuing insecurity in our nation is very troubling. Nigeria is at the brink of becoming a failed state like Somalia, unless our president, governors, and leaders have the political will to tackle this menace and bring this problem to an end. We call on the state governors to take every necessary steps to secure their states and stop buying into sectional political interests that maximize tragic situations for selfish advantage. The unity of Nigeria is not negotiable and must be defended for the benefit of us all, the citizens. It is time for state police force in all the states of the Federation. We advocate for an urgent sovereign national dialogue of the ethnic nationalities, groups, and regions to tackle our present situation and also forge the way forward in building a strong, safe, and a nation that will stand out in the Committee of Nations in the 21st century.
Staying with security matters, 11 of the 12 Muslim worshippers abducted from the Jibia Mosque in Castina on Monday are said to have regained their freedom. An eyewitness told Channels Television that the victims escaped from their abductors on Wednesday afternoon in Zumi local government area of neighboring Zamfara state, where they were held captive. According to the eyewitness, 8 males and 2 females escaped with an infant, whose mother, the 12th victim, could not even walk because her legs were swollen. The abductors are reportedly asking for 10 million naira ransom for the nursing mother. More revelations are emerging regarding the abduction of students of the Greenfield University in Edo State. An Islamic cleric, Sheikh Ahmad Guni, says those behind the incident have a link with Boko Haram, insisting that negotiation remains the best option. Sheikh Gumi made the comments when he received the Christian delegation in his home led by Pastor Johanna Bruce, who is appealing to the government to adopt the carrot and stick approach towards addressing the menace.
You know, when the Kankara boys were abducted, the Boko Haram claimed they are the ones, whereas they were not the ones. But on the ground we had they were bargaining with the kidnappers to sell them the boys, because they see that they can bargain better, Boko Haram being more entrenched in this kind of operations. But luckily, the herdsmen refused the offer, and by negotiations with the federal state government, released the boys. So we had the Kagara boys, we have the boss that was kidnapped in Niger State, which was also by through negotiations. The parent didn't pay anything and the children were released. So the Jangebe girls too, by negotiations, they were released. And now the Forestry Mechanization College, through negotiations too, they were released. But unfortunately, the Greenfield abduction is unique, because for the first time, we see a cooperation between some bandits and the Boko Haram element. So this confirmed to us Boko Haram is encroaching and entering into the field. This is a bad symptom and a prognosis, but by intervention too, by contact too, when they came with that barbarism of killing innocent people, just to show they are serious, just to show I'm serious, kill young men, 5 were shot. That barbarism, we are lucky, has stopped, because those who are involved in it, who are the ordinary herdsmen, say, no, this is not our way. We cannot accept that. See, this is the power of negotiations.
We are in support of dialogue at all levels in Nigeria. And we're also calling on the government themselves. Though they have their stand, we are not against the government, but if they try another way and there's a failure, let's try another way around. And I think even America that have fought war across the globe, they end up on dialogue table. They did it in Afghanistan recently. They are packing out of Afghanistan. It happened in 1991, all through in Iraq. They are also like that packing. And so many other places. There's no war that ends on war or weapon or using weaponry. Rather, it ends on dialogue. We had our civil war, we end up at a dialogue table.
In part 2, after the break, students of the University of Cross River called on the government and security agencies to secure the release of Ms. Priscilla Ojong, a 300-level student of mass communication in the school. Stay with us. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Southern governors double down on their resolutions on restructuring and other matters. Governors Okowa and Wike insist they are echoing the voices of their people. 11 of the 12 Muslim worshippers abducted from a mosque in Jibia town, Edo State, regained their freedom. Impact of COVID-19 pandemic and debt relief top agenda as President Buhari joins other global leaders for the African Finance Summit holding in Paris next week. An Israel-Palestine conflict shows no sign of abating as Israeli airstrikes and rockets fired from Gaza continue to on a 4-day official visit to France tomorrow, where he will attend the African Finance Summit in Paris. The meeting is expected to focus on reviewing the African economy in the wake of shocks from the coronavirus pandemic and possible relief measures, especially from increased debt burden on countries. In a statement, the president's media aide, Mr. Garba Shehu, explained that the summit, to be hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, will attract major stakeholders in global finance institutions and some heads of government. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to meet with the French president to discuss growing security challenges in the Sahel and Lake Chad region, as well as boosting the health sector. He will also hold talks with some key players in the oil and gas sector, engineering and telecommunications, European Council and European Union, as well as members of the Nigerian community in France.
He's a Moscow student. Our student is missing.
Students of the University of Cross River, Unicross, are appealing for the intervention of government and security agencies for the release of their colleague, Ms. Priscilla Ojong, a 300-level student of mass communication, who they claim has been missing for over 3 weeks now. The students who embarked on a march from Calabar South to Calabar Town said that Ms. Ojong traveled to Lagos to visit a friend, and since then, she has been out of touch as her phone has been switched off. According to them, a viral video which has been on circulation indicating that she is safe was masterminded by her abductors, but they are yet to set their eyes on her. Mr. Ojong also claimed that his daughter is still in captivity.
I have not seen that video because if that they release, I would have seen how she talked to me fine as a daughter. I have not seen the video. It's only that people who are hearing that they are talking in social media without using my eye to see her. But I want government and police to help me search for her.
Priscilla is not fine. She's not okay. The last time I heard from her was on the 30th of April, and today her number is not going through. It's not been reachable. I've been trying it since the 1st, since 30th. I've been trying her number morning, afternoon, night. Her number has not been reachable. Priscilla is not fine. I don't know. Anywhere we can get help from, we just need the help to bring Priscilla back safely and fine.
Residents of the nation's capital have been reacting to the restrictions in the 4th phase easing of the COVID-19 lockdown across the country. Speaking to Channels Television, some residents lamented the impact the restriction may have on their businesses. Our next report looks at the ramification of these guidelines.
Pape, a shanty community, is 10 minutes drive from Abuja city center. Pape has a growing human population and a corresponding rise in the number of shanties. In April of 2020, when the FCT administration started community testing, Pape presented the opportunity to find active cases in the nation's capital, and it proved right, as the area was marked as high risk in view of the number of cases recorded during the community testing. A few months after, many of the residents are still not complying with the protocols. Like other parts of the country, the nation's capital is witnessing a low record of infections. According to statistics from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, The federal capital has the second highest number of confirmed cases with 19,838 cases as at May the 13th, 2021. While over 500 are still in admission, 166 deaths have been recorded. Nevertheless, the authorities are calling for caution as the fourth phase of the COVID-19 pandemic kicks in. The reintroduction of the restrictions during the fourth phase comes with reactions from residents of the nation's capital.
Restriction, to me, is not the major issue now. What should be the issue now is people that are coming in, if there is a specific test they can be doing for them, to know that those that are coming in are not having this virus. So there is no reason restricting the people that is in Nigeria.
You want to bring such an enforcement, there must be a preparation for it. The first set of lockdown affected people. For example, for somebody that is not government worker, that is not expecting salary, and you lock them inside. And some of the food, some of the items, the palliative they want to give to people, they refuse to give to people.
The FCT is one of the epicenters of the pandemic, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration is not leaving any stone unturned in ensuring that the guidelines issued for the fourth phase is complied with. The guidelines include enforcement of curfew from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Nightclubs, gyms and others will remain closed till further notice. Gatherings of religious groups and weddings, among others, have been reduced to 50% attendance. All government engagements, meetings and conferences are to hold virtually. Attendees at gatherings must wear face masks and maintain social distance. There are no limitations for public transportation, but operators must ensure compliance to protocols. All employees of the Federal Capital Territory and the 6 area councils on grade level 12 and below are to work from home. Mandatory use of face masks shall be strictly enforced in public offices. For some residents of the FCT, these restrictions have some impact on their businesses.
I'm a businessman. I need to travel, do night journey. When we travel from a night, enter the place in the morning and buy goods and return back again, it will distract our business and it will affect us as a businessman.
The government continues to encourage Nigerians to take personal responsibility to help in reducing the cases of COVID-19 in the country, while the enforcement team have been mandated to carry out arrest of violators and prosecute them through the mobile court system.
From Abuja, we move to Edo State, where the government reiterates the ban on pool parties and social gatherings, which will now be limited to 50% of the capacity at venues. This is to curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic and prevent a third wave of the virus. The permanent secretary in the State Ministry of Health, who disclosed this during a press briefing in Benin City, the state capital, said the COVID-19 response has effectively dealt with the second wave of the pandemic, noting that other preventive protocols, including wearing of face masks, are still in place. He also confirmed that the state has recorded 89% success in the ongoing vaccination exercise.
Swimming pools and poolside parties remain banned in the state. This is supposed to be sustained, and any of the organizations or facilities flouting this, the state government will not take it too kindly, because it's one of the measures that we know we can use to reduce quick spread of this virus amongst our people. For social gatherings, which include weddings, anniversaries, funerals, and the rest, social distancing is also still encouraged, and where possible, outdoor activities should be implemented. But if it must be within a closed facility, the facility should not take more than 50% of the capacity as already designed by the protocol we have already. And then, strict observance of no face mask, no entry, with provision of water for the washing of hands with liquid soap, if possible. Then organizers should provide hand washing facilities to ensure that these things are properly implemented in the state.
The national response to COVID-19 has in the last 2 months shifted attention to vaccination after the country received its first batch of 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from COVAX facility in March. Although Nigeria is hoping to receive additional vaccines, global demand for this essential commodity has limited supplies to Africa. Our next report examines what experts say about Nigeria's efforts towards domestic production of COVID-19 vaccine against the backdrop of a rising demand.
Nigeria got a first batch of AstraZeneca vaccine from COVAX facility in March this year. And because the shipment contains only about 4 million doses, a targeted population comprising frontline health workers and strategic political office holders were prioritized for vaccination, as government says it awaits other supplies. But the growing demand for vaccines among countries with very high cases of COVID-19 is now causing scarcity. And as a result, the federal government stops administering the AstraZeneca jab on people who have not received their first dose. According to the Ministry of Health, this decision is to enable all who have taken the first jab get their second jab for full inoculation,
including vaccine production.
But experts say Nigeria would not have been in this situation if research and domestic production of vaccines were prioritized.
The truth is that research is taken to the background. If you look at the policy, the national policy on health, research was number 8. Meanwhile, research should be number 1. Because research really drives development. Anywhere in the world where you see people developing, research is number 1.
The Minister of Health had announced a 10 billion naira funding for domestic vaccine production in January this year. 3 months down the line, there is no information about any local vaccine preparation. Some medical experts believe strongly that the right things are not being done.
The main aim of a vaccine is to ensure that the body is being stimulated to produce specific antibodies against the invading virus so that it can confer immunity. And so the vaccine actually is made out of those organisms. And our position as a professional association is that we are supposed to build our own system, have our own infrastructure, that we should be able to isolate the virus that is in circulation in Nigeria. And from there, vaccine can actually be made.
We would have been up by now from the experience we garnered during the Ebola of 2014. After that, we all went to sleep. Policy issues were not considered. Even publications. From there, we do not know where the case files of those who were affected. We did not have the experience. We did not tell the story of our success story of Ebola. Because it is then that we begin to prepare for emergencies, including vaccine production.
The ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic has forced countries around the world to prioritize research for vaccine and a cure for the virus. Many hope that Nigeria would also give such priority and come up with a domestic solution to the pandemic.
When the news at 10 returns, Lagos Judicial Panel hands out 11 million naira checks to 2 victims of police brutality as compensation for their ordeal. Plus, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves sustained decline for the 4th consecutive week as turnover dips by 72% on low inflow amid fluctuating oil prices. That's on Business News. Join us again.
I saw the soldiers. They will come from that place, Eco Hotel. They will shoot at us. They will stop. They will approach us. They will shoot again. While that was going on, I saw people were dropping. Some would drop with injury. No. DJ Switch dropped the mic to attend to the injured and the dead one beside her. That was when the video went viral. At about 11:30, the shooting stopped for a while. No, that 11:30, the shooting stopped. Police take over. They start throwing tear gas at us. They start throwing tear gas. They will use the tear gas to chase us away, to take over the toll gate. They will chase us, we'll run, we'll come back. So those who are, the boys who are in front, they're running back, they will shoot. So they start shooting periodically. This time around, at least the soldiers will shoot, they will stop. This one, they are not stopping. They continue, so continue fire and shooting. They will shoot. And they were wearing white, they are not wearing their uniform. They were on white. So the shooting continued. They would throw tear gas, they would shoot. While that was going on, we are still looking for escape routes because everywhere we are surrounded by both the police and the soldiers. The soldiers were still on ground, not that they left. They were still on ground, but the police took over the shooting.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has announced a new date for the conduct of the 2021 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The Registrar of JAMB, Professor Isiaq Oloyede, made this known after a stakeholders meeting in the nation's capital, Abuja. Professor Oloyede will also announce the extension of the registration of candidates for the 2021 UTME and direct entry, explained that the examination will now start from June the 19th to July the 3rd.
Amidst challenges of registration for the 2021 UTME and direct entry examinations, stakeholders from the Federal Ministry of Education, National Identity Management Commission, Nigeria Communications Commission, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council, and the management of the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board have been meeting to find a solution to the challenges. After several hours of meeting, the Registrar of JAMB reads the resolution.
Desirous of affording prospective candidates more time to complete their registration for the 2021 UTME DE, which was expected to end today, Saturday, May 15, 2021. Stakeholders recommended and the management approved a 2-week extension for registration to now end on May 29, 2021. The extension is contingent upon stakeholders' firm commitment to deliver on their respective responsibilities. Accordingly, the 2021 mock UTME, earlier scheduled for 28th May 2021, will now hold on the 3rd of June 2021, while the main UTME will hold from June 19 to July 3, 2021.
The JAMB Registrar sounds a note of warning to owners of computer-based centers.
No CBT center should collect money for e-PIN and registration fees simultaneously. You buy the PIN and you go for registration. And no CBT center should collect registration fee until the completion of this registration. You will know if we find any CBT center who collects registration fee before attending to the candidate, that CBT center will be sanctioned. Stakeholders reiterated the prohibition of group registration for candidates because we will sanction any CBT center that violates this instruction.
Although the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board is reporting over 1.3 million registered candidates, the board is optimistic that more applicants will take advantage of the extension as it aims to register not less than 2 million candidates.
Some states in the north have cancelled the annual Dabba celebration due to the COVID-19 pandemic and insecurity in the country. But it's a different story in Bauchi as the state defies all threats and went ahead with the age-long tradition. The state governor, Bala Mohammed, says Bauchi is relatively peaceful for an event like this to hold. He promised to continue to preserve the culture and tradition and also respect the traditional institution. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliu, has the rest of the story.
It's the 107th Dabba, also known as Hawandoshe in Bauchi since 1914. Historically, the Dabba was cancelled 5 times. The first time was in 1966 after the demise of the late Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and last year it was stalled by COVID-19 pandemic. This year's Dabba was almost threatened by insecurity and COVID-19 pandemic, but the decision to go ahead prevailed.
No, the people in Bauchi are very happy about it, and you know it's our tradition. Even like people from our neighboring states, they come to Bauchi to watch the Hawan Sallah.
Yes, I spent almost 80,000 naira, me and my horses.
The seat that I'm sitting on it is more than 2 million. Somebody priced it this year at 2 million.
Residents of Bauchi were elated when it was announced that this year's Hawandoshe will hold. They missed it last year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's why they are out in their numbers to witness the occasion today. Even the horse riders themselves say they had spent huge sums of money preparing for this day.
39 traditional title holders and the Emir of Bauchi led processions of horse riders to the government house to pay homage on the governor, Bala Mohammed. It's a payback homage after the governor had also visited the Emir at the palace on the day of Eid. With major roads blocked, the grandeur of horse riders and symbolic display of warriors and hunters can hardly be missed as spectators jostle for available space to catch a glimpse without recourse to the COVID-19 protocols. There's an element of unity in display as different ethnic groups partake in the procession. The Emir of Bauchi's message is laced with gratitude.
We are grateful to the state government for the peace we enjoy in the state and for improving the life of the common man.
Governor Mohammed is confident about his administration's capacity to sustain peace and unity in the state.
We have a lot of security challenges, but by the grace of God, Bauchi is very safe and secure. You can see since yesterday when we have been celebrating, there had not been any incident at all, even a single one, of loss of life or property or breakdown of security.
The Dabba reaches a climax with the Emir extending the traditional salutes to the governor as a mark of honor. Hajara Aliu, Channels Television News.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business with Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Melinda. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves has sustained its decline for the 4th consecutive week. It fell by $111.56 million to $34.61 billion as of May the 14th. This comes after total turnover for the week dipped by 72% to $130.93 million on Tuesday on the back of weak inflow of foreign exchange into the country as oil prices fluctuated between $67 and $69 within the week due to concerns over a rising case of COVID-19 in India. Meanwhile, analysts expect the forex liquidity to improve at the investors and exporters window of the market over the medium term. as they anticipate a significant rebound in oil prices in the coming days and an increase in crude production volume for Nigeria's oil export. And to the local equities market now, about 147 billion naira was gained in 3 positive sessions as the bull maintained control within the holiday shortened trading week. At the same time, the market's main index recorded a 0.72% increase, which propelled it higher around the 39,000 point, while performance across the 5 major sectors of listed equities also closed the week positive across board. Consolidated Hallmark Insurance emerged #1 out of 33 gainers for the week with a 25.64% gain. On its share price, Academy Press emerged worst among 18 losers after profit-taking shed 10% from its value, while 108 equities remained unchanged. However, the overall volume of equities traded within the week was lower by 52.4% in contrast to last week's figure, as 840.33 million shares changed hands in over 13,000 deals. And these were largely driven by the shares of Axis, Zenith Bank, and eTransact. Meanwhile, activities at the Treasury bills market remained bearish this week as low liquidity in system drove sell-offs by its participants. As a result, the average yield across all instruments expanded by 14 basis points to 7.1%. Across the market segments, the average yield increased by 23 basis points to 8.6% at the OMO segment and 21 basis points to 5.1% at the NTB segment. Traders and analysts expect the average yield of T-bills to trend higher next week as the current liquidity squeeze in the financial system is expected to persist. And over to the secondary bonds market, it closed on a bullish note as investors cherry-picked on attractive yields at the mid and long segments of the curve. Across the benchmark curve, the average yield declined at the mid and long segments as investors demanded the March 2027 and March 2050 bonds, while the short end was flat. Analysts expect investors to resume sell-offs at the bonds market in the coming week, as forecast that the release of key macro indicators, such as the April inflation data, as well as the GDP numbers for the first quarter of the year, will shape market sentiment and the direction of yields. And that's Business News Tonight. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Ladi. And for what's happening in the world of sports, here's Kayode Okikiolu.
Well, Melinda, it will be a night of celebrations for Leicester City after they won the FA Cup for the very first time in the club's 137-year history. Nigeria's Wilfred Ndidi and Kelechi Iheanacho, who both play for Leicester City, were part of the history-making team. Youri Tielemans' sensational strike in the 63rd minute was all the Foxes needed to beat Chelsea 1-0 in front of 22,000 fans at Wembley. Goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel pulled off 2 crucial saves to keep Chelsea at bay, while VAR chopped off what the Blues thought was an equalizer in the dying moments of the game. And Leeds United continued their fine form at the end of their first season back in the English Premier League with an impressive 4-0 victory over Burnley at Turf Moor. The result means that Leeds have lost only once in 9 league games and remain on course for a top-half finish. Elsewhere, Southampton defeated relegated Fulham 3-1 at St Mary's Stadium. Che Adams, Nathan Tella and Theo Walcott were all on the score sheet for the Saints. In the last game of the day, Brighton and West Ham played out a 1-1 draw. And Sweden head coach Jan Andersson has confirmed that Zlatan Ibrahimovic will not feature at Euro 2020. Ibrahimovic made a return to the national team in March, playing in World Cup qualifiers against Georgia and Kosovo. But a knee injury has ended his hopes of representing his country at the rescheduled European Championship, with Ibrahimovic ruled out after Milan confirmed a treatment plan that will take 6 weeks. Sweden face a difficult task to reach the last 16 of Euro 2020, having been drawn in Group E alongside Spain, Poland and Slovakia. Barcelona coach Ronald Koeman says he has been mistreated by the media after the team's poor run of results that has all but put them out of contention in the Spanish title race. Koeman insists this season has not been bad for the Catalan Giants because they won the Copa del Rey and became contenders in the league despite being written off. The 58-year-old wants to stay in charge next season, but that's if the club wants him to.
You have to analyze the changes in the team. You have to analyze the young players. You have to analyze that we won the cup, that we had 12, 13 points less in December. We're still fighting for the league. It's a small possibility. The media in the last few days, it looks like that we did a really bad job, and I don't agree.
Well, that's Sports News for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiondo. The news at 10 continues with Melinda.
Many thanks, Kayode. It has been almost a week since the Israeli military and Palestinian militants began exchanging airstrikes, and there are still no signs of abating, despite intervention from the international community. U.S. envoy Hadi Ami is in Tel Aviv for the escalation talks. He'll be speaking with Israeli, Palestinians and UN officials and reinforce what the U.S. diplomats say is a need for a sustainable calm.
Day 6 of airstrikes and fighting continues. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu intent on making good on his promise to deal with enemies. This video captures the moment a 12-story Gaza tower block housing the offices of the US-based Associated Press and Qatar-based broadcaster Al Jazeera collapsed today after being struck by Israeli missiles. The journalist had asked for permission to retrieve equipment inside the building before it was hit. Thankfully, no one was in it. The owner of the building had been warned in advance of an impending missile strike, and the building had been evacuated. There were no injuries, and staff of the two organizations are said to be safe. They are the lucky ones, as many do not receive any warnings before the rockets make impact. Israeli fighter jets kept striking the Gaza Strip overnight and pre-dawn on Friday. The army said forces had intensively attacked posts that belonged to Hamas, adding that 160 war jets, artillery and tanks participated in the military operation. The army also says forces hit 150 targets with 1,000 bombs and shells overnight and throughout Friday morning. Many of the targets were underground. There has been some damage on the Israeli side as well. A rocket struck a residential building in Israel's commercial hub suburb of Ramat Gan, killing one person. Eyewitness footage at the scene showed emergency personnel and members of the public gathered around the heavily damaged building. Violence overnight saw militants fire about 200 rockets at cities in Israel. A fresh barrage of Palestinian rockets rocked the Israeli city of Tel Aviv today. Thousands ran for shelter as sirens wailed repeatedly across the city. While international partners look to helping both sides resolve the crises, pro-Palestinian protests are growing beyond Muslim-majority countries. Hundreds have gathered in Tunisia, in Britain, in Germany, and even in Australia. Funerals have become an almost daily occurrence for the Palestinians, as over 140 people, including at least 39 children, have been killed in Gaza since the hostilities that began on Monday. Israel, on the other hand, has reported 9 dead, including children.
Britain still insists on its goal to reopen the country, but COVID-19 restrictions will continue on Monday, despite concerns over the Indian variant of the coronavirus. Although Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the new variant may cause a disruption, the government continues to call for more people to get vaccinated. Here's more in the global update.
The vaccination campaign has reached the English town of Bolton, where citizens queued up to receive their jabs after a surge in cases there related to the variant first detected in India. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said on Wednesday that the government was looking at possible solutions to tackle the surge. The full impact of the B1617 variant, which the World Health Organization has designated as being of global concern, is not yet clear. Meanwhile, India has seen more than 300,000 new daily confirmed COVID-19 cases for 24 straight days after the country reported 326,098 cases in the past day, raising the total number of cases closer to 25 million. Despite the spike in cases, the federal government still rules out imposing a complete countrywide lockdown as the pattern of last year to contain the worsening situation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has held a high-level meeting regarding the COVID-19 situation in the country and vaccination drive. Tourists filled airports and highways in Greece today as the country officially kicked off its tourism season in the hopes of reviving an economy battered by the coronavirus pandemic. The streets of Athens, tourist district, were once again full of visitors browsing souvenirs and stalls. Finally, China has administered over 380 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines as of Friday. The figure was up 13.72 million doses from the 366.91 million reported on Friday. The country has been promoting vaccination among the public to build an immune barrier.
And the main news again. 2 of the 17 southern governors today responded to those criticizing their resolutions at their meeting in Asaba on Tuesday. Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa and his River State counterpart Nyesom Wike, who spoke at separate events, insisted that they only echoed the voices of their people on the issue of restructuring, ban on open grazing and other matters. Also today, the presidency said President Muhammadu Buhari would join other global leaders for the African Finance Summit holding in Paris next week. Issues to be discussed include the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, African economies, and debt relief. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Kinlami on behalf of the team. Good night.